Recently, I got a comment on one of my YouTube videos left by EvilFox99 about a new and challenging question they're asking in the Apple Store interview process. And it is a doozy, but in this video, I am going to tell you how to answer it so that you can absolutely crush this interview question. And quite frankly, Evil Fox, more like Helpful Fox. All right, let's go. Now, the question is, tell me about a time that you were underprepared to solve a customer's query. And I think this is a great question. And before we jump into how to answer it, let's talk about why. Because I think whenever you have the opportunity to know an interview question ahead of time, it makes sense to say why. Why would they ask that? What are they trying to get from me when I'm answering this question for them? And it's a few things, right? It shows your ability to serve the client, to adapt on the fly, and the humility to admit when you don't know something. And all of these things are positive from Apple's perspective if you approach them in a positive way. So as you're answering these questions, you want to keep those things in mind. I'm going to go through step by step how to answer this though, so you know how to absolutely crush it. Now, if you've seen any of my videos before, you know that tell me about a time when it should send off bells in your head, like an alarm, ding, ding, ding. This is a behavioral interview question. Anytime they're asking you to recall something previously, what they're looking for is a situation you encountered previously. How did you behave? Hence behavioral interview question, because it's the best predictor of future behavior. So it's giving them an idea of how you would respond to something as a potential Apple employee. Whenever this is the case, you have to use the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. Throw an L at the end for lesson. So when you're talking about the situation, what was the situation you were in, right? You were working at a store, you were working in a previous role. Task, a customer comes in asking for your help, you're underprepared. That is the task. Action, what did you specifically do to remedy the situation? What was the result or the outcome of the situation? And then what did you learn moving forward? So you're gonna keep that in mind as a framework on how to answer this question. Now, one of the hidden, sneaky parts of this question is that there are good reasons to be underprepared, and there are not so good reasons to be underprepared to help a customer. Now, here are a few good reasons why you might be underprepared. So one, if you were brand new to a job or you were relatively new and someone comes in asking a very complex question, that is a good reason to be underprepared, right? That is reasonable. Anybody would understand that. Another reason is their question is about a product or just outside of the scope of what you typically do. Maybe you're an expert on one thing, or your job is about doing something, and the question they ask you or the request they have is slightly outside of your scope of expertise. That is another reason why maybe you would be underprepared to help them with their specific inquiry. The last reason is this person is like a super user or like a super high level expert, and it would be unreasonable for you to be able to match their product knowledge because they're an expert at these type of things. So those are all reasons as you look for the backdrop to answering this question about why you were underprepared. Those to me are all reasons that are acceptable and they would understand. Now I want to talk a little bit about the attitude you need to have in order to answer this question well. The first one is just because you don't know the answer doesn't mean you can't help them, right? Just because you don't have the answer at your fingertips, you don't have it memorized, it's not in your brain, doesn't mean you can't look it up, doesn't mean you can't work with them to solve it, doesn't mean you can go and talk to somebody else, bring them in, and lean on their expertise to help to serve the client, right? So one, just because you don't know the answer doesn't mean you can't help them. Next, you need to walk them through exactly what you did to help serve the client, and then afterwards, how you informed yourself so in the future, you would be prepared to help someone if they have that exact same question, right? Part of answering this question well is that you're telling them, okay, so this happened, I figured it out, I went above and beyond, I served the client, and then I learned more about that specific topic, so if that situation presented itself again, I would be ready. Next, if you have the opportunity here to show them, I went above and beyond what is expected in my role, it's a great place to do so, and that also you feel it is your responsibility that customers have a great experience when they come to you. You need to make sure they feel that as you answer this interview question. And lastly, being in this situation doesn't fatigue you, it is motivating. You see it as a challenge, right? If when you're answering this interview question, you're like, yeah, this person came in and I was new, so I didn't have the answer and it was really tough, so I don't know, I looked it up and oh man, it was really rough. That is not motivating. The people who are interviewing at Apple are not going to love that. Compare that with this. They came in, they had a ton of questions, and I was relatively new, so I didn't know. So what I did is I went on, I did some research, and it was actually really interesting. We worked together, we talked through their question. I was able to ask one of the more senior people, brought them in, and at the end, the customer was really happy. And it was a really good experience for me, especially early on, because it helped me learn more and kind of accelerated my ability to serve our customers as they would come in with difficult questions. Which one of those things feels better to you? It's obviously the second one. So there you have it. That is how you answer that interview question. Make sure you use the STAR technique. What was the situation you were in? What was the task? What specific action did you take to solve their problem, even though you didn't have all the information? And then what was the result? What was the outcome? Remember that for you are motivated by these. You see it as your job to make sure they have a great experience. And just because you don't have the information doesn't mean you can't help them. Hey, this video is done, but if you haven't seen this video, you gotta go watch it right now. This is how you can succeed in the Apple Group interview. This could be an intimidating interview. It's talking about you, a few other people. How do you stand out? How do you differentiate yourself? And how do you end up getting moved to the next round? This video right here will teach you how to do just that.